welcome to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. I'm Jemma Gofton with another edition of the programme that aims to make your next cruise or holiday as problem-free and relaxing as possible. So if you have a holiday, cruise or travel-related question, here's how to get in touch. To leave a question on our viewer hotline, call 0871 423 4444. Calls cost 10p a minute from a BT landline and calls from other networks and mobiles may vary. Write on our Facebook wall or tweet us, just search Holiday and Cruise Channel. Send a message through our website www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk/clinic or write to us at the Holiday and Cruise Channel, Cavendish House, Brighton Road, Liverpool, L22 5NG. Now in today's programme we're heading over to the United States of America to explore North Carolina. Situated in the southeastern United States, the state borders South Carolina and Georgia to the south, Tennessee to the west, Virginia to the north and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. Located at the crossroads of native culture and American history, steeped in stories of maritime legend and military conflict and rooted in red clay and moonshine, North Carolina's history and heritage spans the centuries with a unique flavour unlike any other in America. From Cherokee crafts to stately lighthouses, pirates to pottery and battlefields to race cars, North Carolina is proudly bursting at the seams with tales to tell and history to experience. Better yet, all is easily accessible to the interested traveller. And here to tell us more is Duncan McCubbin from the North Carolina Tourism Office. Now, I know nothing of North Carolina, so tell me, what does a holiday there encompass? What can we expect?
You can expect a very diverse mix of opportunities and things to experience, from the coastline that you've already mentioned, which is over 300 miles long, through to the central region and then through to the mountain region. So you get a very diverse mix of experiences throughout a holiday, so you can be quite active at the beginning and then just chill out on the beach at the end of your stay. Now,
although I've kind of put it in on the map, if you like, could you just explain in layman's terms where it is? Because I actually don't even know where it is.
Yeah, it's basically a 7.5-hour flight from the UK. It is on the eastern seaboard. You've basically got Florida, that runs into South Carolina and then North Carolina. So from Orlando, to give some perspective, it's probably about a 7 or 8 hour drive from Orlando. So it's very convenient located on the East Coast.
Oh, that's interesting. So do people do that sort of driving holiday?
Very much so. You know, we fully accept that people will see North Carolina as part of a fly drive itinerary or a touring holiday, and will include the neighbouring states where needed. And we also find that people will fly into Norfolk, Virginia, and then come down travel south into North Carolina, and then through into Georgia.
OK, we're just looking at some lovely pictures here, kite flying, etc. And it says Tower Above Beauty. So this does look absolutely breathtaking. I mean, I really don't know what to expect of North Carolina. So is this just a typical taster?
This is a typical taster, yes. And I mean, what you're seeing here is exactly what you will see. The horses there are Spanish horses that came over 450 years ago. So there is a lot of history. There's a lot of excitement, an awful lot of things to do, from whitewater rafting and kayaking. It is the home of NASCAR, the motor racing series. Most of the factory teams are within 10 miles of Charlotte, the main city. And, yeah, it's steeped as well in history as well.
Let's just talk about the logistics of getting there.
Yeah.
Are there direct flights?
There are direct flights from the UK. There are direct flights from Heathrow into Charlotte and direct flights from Heathrow into Raleigh-Durham. But it's also very accessible with a one-stop connection from various parts of the UK as well.
And if we're flying into those two spots, where are the key areas that we need to be heading towards from there?
I think once you're flying into Charlotte or into Raleigh, then to me, you really either need to go up into the mountains to experience the mountain lifestyle and the history and the culture that is there, or you can head over to the coastline and quite easily spend a couple of weeks on the coast doing a beach-type holiday, but at the same time doing lots of different experiences and lots of different water sports.
Well, let's talk about the mountain region first, because you mentioned that one first. So we're heading up into the mountains. I'm guessing that's outdoorsy. we're quite physical, we're getting involved in things up there?
Very much so. I mean, there's a lot of hiking and mountain biking, and of varying levels as well. So it can challenge the most experienced people, or it's very much for those who just want a casual stroll or a walk through the woods. But that aside, it is an outstanding area of natural beauty. You have got the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in that region.
Oh, I love national parks.
Oh, well,
I think they're amazing because you never get to see it all, obviously, do you?
No, not at all. It's so diverse and there's so much to see. We also have the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is a 460-mile length parkway, 252 miles of which is in North Carolina. And that is a route that runs along the side of the mountain rather than through the mountain. So it hugs the mountain line all the way through. And there's some great viewpoints to look at over the forests and everything there.
And is it the sort of national park where people stay and you can stay overnight, you can camp, or not that type of national park?
There are some locations where you can do log cabins, or you can small towns where there's small hotels. There is camping available in some areas, but a lot of people would generally stay in one of the small towns.
And what are, let's list a couple of those, the most, well, not the most exciting, because that's perhaps not the right word, but where you're going to get the nicest scenery, the best food?
I think the great location to be is Asheville. Asheville is very close to the Parkway, very close to the whole mountain region. There's a very diverse mix. It's quite a, what's the word I'm looking for, bohemian
Oh, I like
city.
that.
Very much individual restaurants and bars, and the shopping is very bespoke, and there's a sort of craft area where there's lots of different potters, artists, jewellery makers. There's a whole diverse mix in the town there, and it's just very diverse. But there's plenty of good choice for accommodation. And
we were chatting about heading to the coast, and we saw a lovely picture of that before. I guess that would we class that as a beach holiday, or is it not really a beach holiday as such?
It's not a beach holiday as you would probably classify a beach holiday, because there's so much to see and do. There's an awful lot of history there. It's the place where Blackbeard died, so there's a lot of pirate history going on in that part of the world. Great fun for children because of all the pirate activities, but also because of its significance in the Second World War. It's great for people who want to dive. There's a lot of German U-boats and ships that were sunk in that area. So there's quite a lot of maritime history generally, and a very, very good maritime museum in the area.
And for those who want to dive, because I know there are people that have the paddy and they dive and that's fine,
Yeah.
Can you actually learn to dive there as well? I wonder, because that would be amazing.
Yes, you can learn to dive there. There are some dive schools that will teach you to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're paddy qualified, then you can just get out there with your licence and just... There are people that will take you out and show you what to do.
Yeah.
And where to excel.
That's the other thing about places that are steeped in history. Is it easy to find people to tell you about the history, who know about it and will guide you round? Because I think we're quite guilty sometimes of missing things when we go to great places.
Yes, I think wherever you go in the state, there are lots of people who are well versed and are very, very knowledgeable on explaining the history of certain parts of the state. Certainly the maritime and the coastal region, awful lot of people that are very much clued up. A lot of them are people who will talk to you who do it as just an interest. It's a hobby of theirs. It's not really that they're paid to do that as a job. They just do it because they like to share their knowledge with other people.
And if we were staying on the coast, where would be the best point to be where you can get out and about, but you can just get a taster of it all?
I think if you're up in the Kitty Hawk or the Duck area, which is the northern part of the Outer Banks, because the coastal region is called the Outer Banks, they're great locations to stay. There's a diverse mix of accommodation that's available, from small hotels to villas and homes to rent. And it's just a great location for if you want to go sailing or parakiting, kayaking. It's just a great location for that.
Now, I'm going to read these words off my list. So, the Piedmont area. So what has in it says that you're in Charlotte, the Biltmore Estate. Tell us about that area. It sounds quite posh, actually, the Biltmore Estate, doesn't it?
The Biltmore Estate is amazing, and it's actually in Venice, closer to Asheville. It was built by the Vanderbilts in the late 1880s.
Oh, I know them. Not personally.
But do you know? Okay. And it was built very much it puts the rest of us to shame because it was a wedding present to his wife.
Oh.
So it's an impressive building that's very much in the French chateau style. Open to the public. They do various tours that you can participate in, and then they do some behind-the-scenes tours and architectural tours. And it is the key property in that region. And it is the biggest privately owned house in the USA, or estate in the United States.
That's
so
interesting.
it's very, very impressive.
And would you give yourself a day to do that tour? Would you spend a day in that area?
I think with everything that the Biltmore estate has to offer, I would spend a day there, because you can also then go to, they have their own, they call them wineries, so you can go and wine taste and try the wines and buy some of their own wines. So yeah, to me it is a day out. It's a day's excursion or experience.
It does sound great. Is there anything else along those lines that somebody, if they're in that area, because I guess when you head towards there, you do that for the day and then you do something as amazing the next day?
Yeah, I mean, that would really, you would look at doing, say, the home one day and then you just go and get the mountain feel the next day. But you have, in that area, same region, you've got the Cherokee Indians as well. I mean, there's an Indian, sort of, where the Cherokee Indian Reserve first started. There's a whole historical area relating to how the Cherokee Indians used to live before they migrated to the west. So there's quite a lot to experience in that as well, to do with history.
Brilliant. OK, we're going to have a quick break, so don't go anywhere. Lots more questions. Now, bit of a leap, but if you're new to cruising, then this is our first time guide to cruise holidays, and it's well worth asking for because it's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 0871 423 4444. Calls will cost 10p a minute from a BT landline, and other networks and mobiles may just vary. You can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk. Whilst you're asking for this, we'll take a quick break. See you shortly. Welcome back to the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. It's lovely to have you with us. Now, in today's programme, we're discussing North Carolina, and Duncan McCubbin is still with me. Now, we spoke about Charlotte and it being one of the airports you fly into. Is it an area that you would actually stay in as well, or is it just the airport and then you're out? No,
Charlotte's a great city. It's a very vibrant city. It's the second biggest financial area outside of New York, so it's very dynamic, it's very modern, but at the same time there's quite a lot of history to it as well. And they've got some great art galleries and museums in there, one of which is the Levine Museum, which shows all the history of the southern states as well.
And how accessible is it all? Would you need a car, or could you do the whole touring bus thing?
In Charlotte itself, you wouldn't need a car. You can get around quite easily. There's transfers from the airport into town. And in Charlotte, no, you wouldn't. If you're going to go out to the motor speedway or you're going to go further afield, then yes, you really need a car, just to give you the flexibility and be able to get around better.
And once you're in Charlotte, would you say there's a hotel or a B&B or a lodge for absolutely every price point for somebody to stay at?
Yes, there's a very diverse mix of accommodation, from small B&Bs sort of a little bit further outside town to your five-star Ritz-Carlton type property in the centre of town. So there's a very diverse mix that will cater for everybody's taste and budget.
Fabulous. Now, we've mentioned the NASCAR racing. Yes. I'm literally reading words out loud to you there. I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's cars.
It's car racing. It's a form of saloon car racing or touring car type racing. The whole history of NASCAR is around the moonshine, and it was where they would distilling the moonshine out in the mountain region, and there were police chases, and that's how NASCAR basically became a bit of a sport. It's all revolving around the police chases that used to take place.
Oh, that's quite exciting. So you can go and watch the race?
Yep, Charlotte has its own motor speedway, which is an oval type circuit. There's a number of races that take place every year, huge capacity. And yeah, you can go and watch. And in fact, when there's not a race weekend, you can go and drive around the circuit, either in a race car with somebody or just in a minibus as part of a tour that they do of the circuit.
You read my mind. That was my very next question, because I thought how exciting that would be. And when we're mentioning things like going to see the NASCAR racing, the Vanderbilt home, are these things that we need to book ahead of time because we don't want to miss out? Or can we just turn up, buy a ticket?
No, you can turn up and buy a ticket. Very much so, with both the home and with the NASCAR series and the Hall of Fame Museum and all the museums in Charlotte. You can pretty much just turn up. If you want to do something specific like a track experience, then I would suggest you look at booking that before you travel, purely so that you're not disappointed, because most people are in Charlotte for 2 or 3 nights and then they move on to something else that's as part of their holiday.
Are there any more sort of I would say quite exciting activities? That for me would be brilliant, having a drive around there. Are there any more exciting activities like that that you can take part in?
You can. I mean, whether Segway riding is exciting, it is for some, but
It
it's
is
a
for
great
me.
way.
I'm desperate to do one.
Well, it's a great way of seeing the city of Charlotte. You can do a Segway tour which takes you around the city of Charlotte. That's quite exciting, good fun if you've never done it before, and you get to see a lot more than you would if you were just doing a walking tour. If you go further afield, you can go up to the Whitewater Outdoor Centre, which is where the American Olympic team train for kayaking, and it's a man-made facility, but they have different levels of rapids, and you can do whitewater rafting, kayaking, but it's part of a whole facility where you can zip line, mountain bike, camp. They have various festivals going on out there as well.
Okay, so I don't want people to be put off if they're not outdoorsy and full of activities and they can't be bothered. Can you go to North Carolina if you just like to kick back with a glass of wine and a good book, or take in the scenery at a leisurely pace?
Yes, very much so. And a lot of the itineraries that we see put together are of that ilk, where people are taking a leisurely pace, wining, dining, shopping. And then if they want to do the odd experience, they can do, but you don't have to be that sort of person. You can go out and very much just enjoy the culture and the pace of life, because it's as fast as you want it to be.
Okay, well, you said wining and dining, my favourite subject. So let's talk about food. And I always like to know of a typical dish for that specific place. So what would I try if I was going to North Carolina? You can say a couple of things. I won't hold you to one thing.
I mean, obviously, because of the coastline, seafood is fantastic. There is an abundance of fresh seafood, cooked in various different ways. So there's a great choice of that. Of course, North Carolina, barbecue. Have to mention barbecue.
Oh, do you? Is that what it...
Barbecue is very much hand in hand with North Carolina, as it is with quite a few of the southern states. And we all have our different slants in the way we cook things and the sauces that we use. But barbecue is very big in North Carolina, and we do in fact have barbecue trails, so that you can do a sort of an itinerary that revolves around just barbecued food.
That sounds amazing. I know that barbecuing is a serious sport almost, isn't it?
It is.
What about drinking them? You mentioned not vineyards, they're
wineries. Yep.
So what would be a good tipple for me to try, or maybe a beer or something?
Oh, there's so many to choose from.
I don't mind trying
and not
them
enough
all.
days in the week, let alone the days in the year. We've got quite a number of wineries, and in fact there are more vineyards in North Carolina than there are any other part of the eastern USA. And the selection and choice from whites to rosés to reds is excellent. A very, very high standard. But when it comes to beers, Asheville has been voted Beer City USA for a number of years. They have 12 microbreweries in just that one town alone. And again, various different tastes and flavours with those beers.
But go on, tell us your favourite. You can...
Oh, I couldn't possibly share that. I'll give a secret away.
Oh, see, we don't know what to try now. So we've talked about food, we've talked about wine. Let's talk about accommodation, going around, and is everything affordable for us? Is the shopping affordable? Can we get quirky little things that we might not be able to get anywhere else?
I mean, shopping is very affordable. The USA generally is very good for shopping at the moment, and the rate of exchange always helps. Certainly, there are mainstream shops, mainstream stores that you would see in any main city, but there's also a lot of very much bespoke, individual, designer-type merchandise and clothing, but it is very reasonably priced, yes.
And when you mentioned a 5-star hotel to me before, I was a little bit surprised, because I'm picturing a small place, but it's not, obviously, is it?
No, I mean, the state from one side to the other is 543 miles. Oh. So it's not the biggest state by any stretch, but it's quite diverse in what it has to offer. And because of the type of people that are travelling there is a very diverse mix of accommodation. And, you know, you have got mountain cabins with hot tubs up in obviously in the mountain region. You've got that on the coast as well, where you can rent homes that come with pools and hot tubs. But if you've got a smaller budget, then yes, there are motels and B&Bs and you know, very much boutique type accommodation as well.
Okay, let's talk about the seasons. Mm-hmm. Is it seasonal, and is there a best time to go?
But generally, the state is very much a visitor, you know, somewhere you can visit on a year-round basis. You know, the summer is a lovely time to be there. My favourite time is May, June, and then September, October, purely because you get a good temperature without too much humidity. But it's a year-round destination in that sense.
So if you were going, I don't know, winter time, fancying a bit of a winter break, what would there be to do then?
I mean, you know, the thing with the winter is really the coastal region is very, very quiet. There's not a great deal. to experience in that sense, because it has a quieter season, but you can still spend time there. Most people who go in the winter time will spend time in Charlotte, and then we'll go up to the mountain region and just experience the mountains in the fall and then into the winter, and the Asheville Estate at Christmas, and things just a little bit different, but you can head, you still get a reasonable climate.
Now, what about if you were heading, can you ski in anywhere around there at all?
You can ski in North Carolina at certain times of the year, although it's very much day skiing. It's not a ski resort as such, but there is skiing available, yes.
So it definitely is an all-year-round place to head to then, isn't it? Now, we were talking about the history before. The Wright brothers flew there?
The Wright brothers did their first flight in the Outer Banks region, so the coastal region of North Carolina, and of course if it wasn't for the Wright brothers, we wouldn't all be doing what we're doing today.
None of us would be flying.
Exactly. And it's quite interesting to go and see how they progressed in their flying capabilities over the years, from a few feet to further and further distances, and how they all pulled it together and developed their skills.
And is there anywhere that you can go in North Carolina to see where they flew, or is there a blue plaque almost with that type of thing?
It's even better than a blue plaque, actually, because there's a full memorial there which shows where they flew. The field they actually flew on is marked out in the progressions that they achieved, and there's a museum there with a replica of the aircraft that they first flew, and in fact you can even go and stand on the sand dunes where they did their first test flights, and if you really want to, you can go hang gliding there as well, so you can pretend to be your own Wright brother if you want.
I'm okay for the hand gliding, thank you very much. Okay, so if you were wanting a hugely active holiday, where would your base be that you could get to everywhere?
Depends on the activities you want to do. If you're a water sporty type person, then I would say out towards Kitty Hawk or Duck. If you are a hiker, a mountain biker, then over towards Asheville and somewhere in the mountains. And then really that depends on how big a town you want to be in.
And also, if you wanted to have a little taster of both, how accessible is that?
It is accessible. I mean, the drive from Asheville, for example, to the Outer Banks is probably an 8 to 10 hour drive, purely because of the way the road network is. And you don't want to rush that, you want to enjoy it, take your time and see some of the things there are to see on the way. But it is very easy to do. It's just a case of planning these things accordingly. Wonderful.
Now, thank you very much for your time. It's been very, very interesting. Like I say, I knew nothing about North Carolina before, and now I know tons. Okay. Great. Now, let me tell you about this. It's our first time guide to cruise holidays, and it's absolutely free of charge. Just give us a call, 0871 423 4444. Now, calls will cost 10p a minute from a BT landline, and other networks and mobiles may just vary. Don't forget, you can also ask for a copy through our website, www.holidayandcruisechannel.co.uk, where you can get in touch with questions for our future programmes. That's all we've got time for on today's edition of the Holiday and Cruise Clinic. My thanks to Duncan McCubbin from the North Carolina Tourism Office, and thanks to you for watching. See you next time. Bye.